So here's the 3 common questions I hear when we talk about a letter of explanation. Actually, it should be 4. First of all, what is a letter of explanation?
Explaining any derogatory or on an application.
Right. So any of those red flags that we talked about, anything here that you might have checked off on this paper we had, right? That's what a LOE, or letter of explanation, addresses. But the 3 popular questions I hear all the time are: when do I bring it up? How long should the LOE be? And why have one? What other questions besides these do you all have? So I want to make sure we're addressing this in the time that we have left. Okay? So when do you bring a letter of explanation up?
When they ask for it.
When the employer asks for it? Okay. Good. Ideas? Thoughts? So, good point. When it's asked for, how many employers are asking for it?
None, but they might bring it up during the interview.
Right. So here's what I encourage clients around the when to bring it up is, let me jump to the why have one and come back to that. A letter of explanation can be a page, it can be 2 pages. Usually a page is sufficient. Even when I have clients who have extensive criminal histories, a page is sufficient. But the why have one is a big thing. So now we're getting back to the pro-social and some of the anti-social belief systems or the negative beliefs and thoughts. When you task, back to our follow directions protocol, right? When you task a customer to write a letter of explanation, you're basically using it as a screening tool to see what they got to say about their stuff. And I got to tell you, I've seen them come back, Charlene, this small and this long, Michelle. Some with too little, being evasive and in denial and not taking responsibility. And some would just wait. It was a dark sunny evening. A dark sunny evening. A dark Sunday evening. And yeah, I've seen this one. And I'm jesting about it, but we've got to help clients know how to use them. But to be able to do that, we got to figure out where they're at. This is my primary tool to help me identify where a client is at in that process. My first tool, screening tool, is when we do our first initial interview and I ask a client this one question. And it's later in the interview because we found that sometimes asking about this stuff can be re-traumatizing if there's no closure and if there was some trauma associated with this to whatever degree. The first question I ask is, Sheila, I'm an employer. I do a 10-year background check on what am I going to see? Real hands-down approach. Got that? So if you're wanting a tool to use to help you identify how well this client may or may not interview, I do a 10-year background check on you. I'm an employer. Tell me what I'm going to find. And I go straight to the paper and pen, like a salesman. But sometimes you stand there and look, they'll be like, oh, no, nothing. And I can't tell you how many times it starts off, oh, nothing. Well, I had this such and such in 2011. I stay down. Okay. What? Anything else? So that's one of the tools I use. This is the main one because now they're able to put into their own words what happened, what they've done to keep it from happening again, and why it shouldn't be a concern moving forward to an employer. That's basically what we're looking for in a letter of explanation. Now, how detailed can it be? I've had bullets, and sometimes I've had, over the past 15 years, I've had 15 misdemeanor and felony convictions. Upon conducting a background check, you will find that in the past 12 years, I have 3 misdemeanor convictions and 4 felony convictions. And if they're nonviolent, don't we throw that in there, right? For nonviolent. Sometimes I use that. Sometimes that's better than domestic violence, DUI. But you do want to show, or at least articulate in there, closure. So I've got a couple of samples of an LOE. This time I'm going to get enough, because I'm not going to that side of the class. I've got a couple of samples of an LOE that I'm passing around there. And I got to be honest with you, this first line, the things I value most are in honesty. So I'm telling you, this LOE has been used time and time again. So please just use it as a, did I pass out enough? Please just use it as a tool to kind of introduce. But we're on the side around the why letter of explanation. If somebody would read that first paragraph, what do you say? Not everybody.
It is extremely important to develop a letter from your heart, deciding what you value most and what is important to you. When you write your values from your beliefs, they are true and sincere and come across as such during the interview. Your body language says a lot during an interview, and the hiring person will detect if you are not sincere in your words. Choosing your own words and beliefs helps you decide what to say and say it with confidence in the interview.
Right. So here's the disclaimer here. There is no one right answer for this letter of explanation. The rule that there's an exception to every rule certainly applies here, because what I do with one client, I can't do with another in some instances. So I want you to kind of understand the dynamic behind it instead of all the wordiness behind it. And unfortunately, I pulled up some to share with you and didn't bring them. Samples of letters that our clients wrote for themselves, and you'd be amazed at their articulation. I'm happy to share that. But the dynamic behind this is getting them to that comfort and confident place. And if you find it's like pulling teeth to get this client working this, it's not time for them to get in an interview. That's a great cue to work more with them on this issue. And some of it is going to be a handout. I mean, you've probably seen some of the fill-in-the-blank versions just to get them the ball rolling. But it may take 2 or 3 drafts, 3 or 4 drafts. And it's a process. And I let them know it's a process. I tell them, get ready. This is going to be ugly. It's going to be painful. But we're going to work through this because, as I tell you, this is designed to get your practice on. I tell them that. So what our clients, what we do, what we focus on there is really getting them to say their first draft in their own words. And then we go back and help retailer it to fit the opportunity and better reflect what it is that they're trying to say. If they need that assistance, but sometimes they don't. Making references to their sobriety, sometimes making reference to the support they're getting in the community. At the end of the day, it sounds pretty much the same across the board because they're talking about, this is what happened, this is what I've done to change it. This is why you shouldn't be worried about it, Mr. or Mrs. Employee. That's the essence of it. And I also remind them, if you were going into a high-end banking, high financial services industry position, and you had bad credit, you'd have to do one of these. And this checklist is a great tool. This is a great tool to use, right? To let clients know that everybody with flags might need a letter of explanation, not just persons with offenses. Okay? And it helps normalize that process for them. Sheila, you had a question? No? Oh, okay. So the LOE is a very, we actually spend in one of our classes, and we're doing one this Friday, by the way. It's a 2-hour class just devoted just to this. Just to the letter of explanation. Here's the funny thing about the letter of explanation. Most of our clients that go through this process, and I tell them this too, it's kind of split, but you don't even have to use it. Going through the process of being able to talk about it saves the day. The instances where we've seen it used is when employers have said, well, we're going to have to run this by HR upstairs. Great. Can I share with you my letter of explanation to kind of put that in detail? Or like you said, when it's requested. All right? Any questions on that?